they didn't ride, over 2,000 miles to San Diego to fight in the war. Got there and the war was over. They stayed in that area in Los Angeles until their hitch was up in July of 47. They were free to go.
6 months. They walked for 6 months.
Yeah, they walked for 6 months. A very, very few left to go this way to try to find their families because they didn't really know where their families were. Some went up the El Camino Real, and you know what that is, right? The Mission Road. And then more went up the base of the Sierra looking for a way over. To go east, a pass. They missed the Walker Pass for some reason. So they ended up walking 600 miles to Sutter's Fort, where need and supply came together. Sutter needed skilled workmen. These guys were skilled. At first they declined and they kept going, but they met an emissary coming on the established trail with a letter from Brigham Young that said, "We're settling here, and don't come unless you have food for a year, because we're pretty destitute." A few went on, most turned around and went back to Sutter and accepted employment. And that's how 6 got up here with the person the park is named after, James Marshall. So the next historic thing was that 2 of these guys in here were journal keepers. And they started work on September 29th on the mill, and they recorded that in their journals. On January 24th was the morning gold was discovered down at the mill that he just came from. And when that happened, and Marshall walked up to the saw pit or the cabin to announce what he had found, Henry Bigler pulled his journal out of his pocket, which he kept in his pocket, and he recorded.
Oh, we get a copy of that? Oh,
Yeah,
thank you
so
so much.
So he wrote, Monday the 24th, some kind of metal was found in a tail race that looks like gold. First discovered by James Marshall, the boss of the mill. So you can read that later. That was the second historic thing because no one else wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
They were the only period record. So the third historic thing was another run. They finished in July of 48. The mill was done. They're ready to find their families. They know where they are now. They went to Sutter. He paid them in kind. They had like 300 head of cattle, 17 wagons full of supplies, 2 cannon, which they had purchased. Do you know where this cannon came from? I'll tell you later.
Russian fort, wasn't it?
Right,
Fort Ross.
yes,
Yeah,
from
because he
Fort
bought
Ross.
all the stuff from Fort Ross from the Russians.
Right. And they had been left, according to what I read, in Moscow by Napoleon when his failed attempt to take care of the Russians. I know, what a well-traveled cannon. So they decided not to take that stuff the way they were going to go, the established 80, which is now Highway 80, because you had to cross the Truckee River over 20 times. And they knew they would lose a lot of stuff. They all had bags of gold. They might even, lose their gold in the water. So they elected, knowing that they're good road builders, they had built this part of the wagon trail from Santa Fe to San Diego on orders of General Kearny. They knew they were good road builders. They built a road out of Placerville through the forest, which is now called Mormon Immigrant Trail, up over the Sierra, Carson Pass, which is now that route 88, right, down into Nevada at Genoa, or Hope Valley, which they called it, and home. And why it's historic is because if your ancestors came to get gold as 49ers, and they came from the east or the south, they would have used that more southerly route. It was safer and perhaps.
And you only crossed the river twice.
And you only crossed the Carson twice. The end. That's it.
That's a nice